So did everybody see that interview with Amber Frost and Anna? I can't pronounce her name and I'm not going to try on Spike Magazine there. Yeah, so this is my first on-camera video. It is my first unscripted video, and I'm going to be talking about cancel culture. So, you know, no way anything could go wrong here. This is fine. This is totally fine. So before I get into it, I'm gonna try to define what I mean by cancel culture. For starters, I hate the name. It's overly dramatic. I don't like it. And obviously it gets referred to as other things like call-out culture, outrage culture. Obviously, the moralizing left is another term I've heard used for it. All of these are probably better than cancel culture, but cancel culture is sort of the parlance of our time. So that's what I'm gonna call it, I guess. And specifically, when I think about it, I think about it in this way, that it's dismissing people for their mistakes as opposed to trying to correct them, in good faith. Of basically stopping at just expressing the outrage that quite frankly is, justified in a lot of cases. I mean, I'm not here to tell you, I'm not here to tone police. I'm not here to tell you, if you're, if this shit upsets you, that you shouldn't be upset and that you shouldn't express that. I'm not fucking here to do that. That is not my fucking place. I mean, mostly because when I talk, cancel culture is a cultural thing. Blaming cancel culture on the individual people who are outraged is kind of like blaming an avalanche on the individual snowflakes. And yes, that is a joke. Especially with Twitter, where you can just retweet the outrage and it just sort of snowballs. Your individual outrage is not the snowball, part of the snowball, but it's not really the snowball. It's more systemic. Funnily enough, it's not your job necessarily to correct people, to educate people. I like to educate people. I don't have to experience a lot of marginalization, so that probably has something to do with it. I have a bit more wiggle room, a bit more freedom to sort of risk some ire and going up to people and being like, this was a shitty take, here's why. I don't engage in it all that much, but I try. And nor is it required for everyone to support everyone. If you don't want to support someone, don't. Don't. I do think it's shitty praxis, and I'll get into that. I'll get into that later. But first, let's get in there and give my examples. Anyway, back to Amber and Anna. I'm only going to talk about this and one other cancel culture-y thing, because these two things I've already commented on publicly on Twitter. There are other bits of cancel culture-y stuff that I'm not going to get into. Maybe I should. Honestly, legitimately, maybe I should. But not going to do it in this video. So I'm not going to break down the article with Anna and Amber. There's nothing that I can add to it that Kane Skittles didn't talk about on their new podcast, Better Read Than Dead. In the first episode, they sort of broke down this article, and they did a really good job of it. It's just, there's nothing I can add to it. It's really good. So you should definitely check it out. I'll put a link down in the description. So anyway, as far as the Spiked interview, what else can I say except yikes? This was bad. In particular, Anna said some super reactionary things, and to be clear, I've talked about it in the past in other videos, in one of my first videos. Yeah, I don't listen to Chapo. There's only so much dunking on the Democrats that I can listen to. not that it's a bad thing. Like, please keep dunking on the Democrats. There's a lot to dunk on, and as I mentioned in one of my first videos, they just kind of remind me of that right-wing talk radio that I used to have to listen to when I was growing up. Obviously they're very different, but there's something about it that just, I don't know, man. It doesn't sit right with me. But anyway, Amber Frost of Chapo Trap House, in addition to Anna, still not going to try to pronounce her last name, she also said some pretty fucking reactionary shit. Most notably, the thing that really got me was her take on polyamory. For starters, I'm not polyamorous. I'm quite monogamous. Anyway, if you want to get this from someone who actually is polyamorous, you should go check out Cyrus the Skeptic. This is basically where I sort of learned this stuff. Cyrus is great. Totally check them out. Anyway, Amber makes a claim in the interview that like millennials are trying to act like jealousy doesn't exist, in particularly in reference to polyamory, and that's wrong. Polyamorous people are actually the ones who confront jealousy head on. They have to deal with it. It is like part of their relationships. Us monogamous people, we're the ones who pretend like jealousy doesn't exist. That's our thing. That's what we do. Like I said, go check out Cyrus the Skeptic. Now, like I said, this shit was real bad, and if it made you angry, like that's legitimate. But here's the thing: there's a big downside to this whole retweet outrage culture, and it's that Spike Magazine is fucking terrible. And every time that this story gets retweeted, gets passed around, it drives traffic to a site that is specifically trying to divide the left. In case you're not familiar with Spike Magazine, they are a newspaper, or well, they used to be a magazine called Living Marxism, and they're fake leftists. They pretend to be on the left. They are not. They are incredibly reactionary. I mean, if you go to their front page and you check them out, no, fuck that. Don't go to their front page and check them out. Just listen to me. I have all the answers. If you remember if you watch my video on Rationality Rules, you'll know that I have a particular dislike of their editor, Brendan O'Neill. Like, flames on the side of my face. He makes me so irrationally angry, like Tim Pool levels of angry. It's actually hard for me. I can't do it unscripted. I would have to write my feelings down. But yeah, they're literally a reactionary rag that is designed to divide the left. They're funded by the Koch brothers, at least partially. So yeah, in this case, what you actually have is an example of cancel culture, outrage culture, actively contributing to dividing the left, not the outrage. The outrage isn't what is doing that. Giving them access to your audience drives people to an organization that is actively trying to divide the left. And I would hope that, yeah, everybody who got driven to that article realizes that. I would hope, but that can't possibly be the case. Some people will now become readers of Spiked because of this. There's no way that didn't happen. So yeah, this whole thing is kind of a microcosm of that particular problem with cancel culture. And critiquing individuals is fine. It's even necessary as long as we remain focused on the institutions involved, because as leftists, we should understand that institutions, systems, power structures, a lot more relevant than individuals, at least when it comes to enacting change, a broader leftist project, that sort of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Vosh. Boy, Where to start? First off, number one, I'm gonna clear something up. I do kind of Ovosh a little bit. Like when I launched my channel, he shouted me out on one of his streams. He sort of gave me my initial 50 subscribers. So yeah, thanks, Vosh. You know, I've watched quite a bit of his stuff. I quite like a lot of it. He and I have disagreements. I mean, Vosh has said and done a lot of problematic shit. This is it's just facts. And again, like with the Spiked article, I'm not here to defend each and every little thing that Vosh has done. I'm not here to critique every little thing that Vosh has done. You know, that's something I could do, and maybe there's some value in it, but not doing it in this video. I am going to, however, talk about the tweet. I think it's illustrative of a point that I want to make. Basically, Vosh tweeted a joke that sort of furthered some trans stereotypes, particularly about them being overly sensitive when it comes to being misgendered. This is, of course, this is honestly a thing that I had never thought of as it actually being, like a stereotype of trans people. Like, and upon realizing it, it sort of seems obvious. It does, but hey, at the time I didn't get it, and I even said at one point that I just sort of scrolled past it. I didn't even think about it. I thought it was a dumb joke, and I just moved on. I learned something. There was a reaction to this tweet. Vosh did a stream about it, and I was not terribly happy with that stream. Anyway, he apologized for it the next day, which, was good. Like, just apologize, man. But then he kind of backed away from it the next day with another joke tweet. And I got kind of hot about that. I actually did a whole tweet thread about how he was not doing this right, and I'm still not entirely great with how that went down. I got way too extremely online, deeply involved in it for a bit there. And most of my experience on Twitter was largely people trying to correct him. It was mostly trans folks. Just people being like, hey, what you're doing is furthering trans stereotypes. It's actually doing harm. Like, please apologize and don't do this again. So, and I mean, I'm sure that there were some things also that happened behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I imagine that there are people who messaged him telling him to, go fucking kill himself and stuff like that. I'm sure he experienced harassment because of this. And even though that wasn't my experience, but the problem was when this particularly came out in the stream, he had this tendency, right before on the Discord server and during the stream to sort of lash out at the people who were just trying to correct him, as though they were part of the group who was just trying to dismiss him and harass him and tell him to go kill himself. There was a difference, and the difference to me seemed very clear, and I think that's important. I think that's a really important distinction to have, like, especially for those of us who are just like, nah, down with cancel culture. Like, we need to understand that there's a difference between marginalized people simply trying to, correct shitty fucking behavior versus people engaging in shitty fucking behavior in order to, dismiss, eliminate, cancel people who engage in shitty fucking behavior. And I do want to say before I sort of move on that there's, I think Vosh does really important work. I really genuinely do stand by that. I mean, most notably, he does some great work de-radicalizing would-be young reactionaries. he had a stream where he went onto the Kill Stream, and if you're not familiar with them, they're like this big fucking Nazi podcast, and he made them look like just fucking tools. Like he very calmly. It was actually because if you watch a lot of his content, he gets really heated. He gets really like he gets into this really like debate me bro sort of like mode where he gets like rah. But on the Kill Stream, he was chill. He just very calmly just wrecked him. He made them look like they were just whining, emotional. It was great. It really was great. I mean, people like me, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there. And a lot of like the big bread tubers and stuff like that, they're not gonna go there. You know, I think Vosh going there, I think it's important. And I think the criticisms of Vosh platforming reactionaries is missing the point. Because it's not like he just, you know, he's not doing a Dave Rubin. He's not bringing people onto his stream and just sort of like letting them spout their shit and then being like, oh, that's very interesting. Like, no, he's actually bringing them on and demonstrating that they're wrong. Most of these people have a much larger platform than he does. They're platforming him. And he's using that to make them look fucking stupid. So, cool. I'm for that. I am in no way opposed to that. It's good praxis. And I think that Chapo Trap House, like, despite my ignorance, because I don't consume their content, does serve a good purpose in that, you know, they're pulling in people who are critical of, you know, both mainstream American political parties. You know, they're pulling them in instead of just like leaving that vacuum and just letting them sort of be sucked in by like alt-right figures, you know, who, you know, are not fans of either party either, because the Republicans aren't racist enough. Instead of it being that, you know, because the Democrats aren't left enough and the Republicans are fucking ghouls. Like that's, like, I think there's value in that. I really do. And hey, at least they're better than Jimmy Dore. So anyway, I think the Dirtbag Left creates kind of a two-pronged problem that hopefully we can learn from going forward. Hopefully. We need to be able to delineate between, you know, folks who are trying to cancel us and those who are trying to simply, you know, correct our shitty behavior and our poor fucking assumptions. We're all going to behave shitty. We're all going to have shitty assumptions. Just like there's value in institutional critiques that I was just talking about. There's value in you know, in correcting these individual behaviors, especially when it comes to people who have these broad platforms. You know, because they're able to spread these poor assumptions and these shitty behaviors to a lot of other people. And so, you know, actively trying to engage with them and actively trying to correct them is important. Needs to happen. It's good praxis. But I think that the problem that the Dirtbag Left has with this is that not giving a fuck is kind of one of their things. And that can create some problems. You have to understand, you know, who not to give a fuck about. You know, recognizing bad faith shit. And for the most part, I think a lot of them are pretty good at it. I think that was Vosh's error, was getting wrapped up in the fact that he had a bunch of bad faith people coming at him from all directions. That when the people who were acting in good faith, typically coming from his own audience, though there were some coming from outside of his audience who were coming in good faith. You know, when they came in, he lashed out. He got fucking tunnel vision and could only see the bad faith critiques of his work. Though it did seem like it does seem like he came around by the end of the stream. Like I said, I'm still not 100% happy with his behavior, but who the fuck am I? And so while the Dirtbag Left, it does have like a problem with delicacy, obviously. There are examples that, you know, that work. In my thread about Vosh's tweet, I bring up the fact that basically right around that same time, Aaron over at Reeducation, great channel, totally check him out. Aaron over at Reeducation, you know, cracked a joke that furthered trans stereotypes, specifically autogynephilia. And when he was confronted with this, he just came out flat out and apologized. And that was it. That was it. We all moved on. You probably didn't even know it happened. And, you know, like I said in my tweet, Aaron didn't lose clout. He didn't, you know, it's like I said, nobody cared. You know, he gets to be every bit as fucking, you know, in your face and aggressive in that same way that Vosh gets to be, in that same way that Chapo does. Like I mean, I'm not sure if he considers himself like a dirtbag leftist, but I mean, he comes off to me like pretty much a dirtbag leftist. I don't know, maybe he wouldn't like being classified that way. I consider him to be like of that ilk, and I think he probably does a better job of it than the rest of them, mostly because of that fucking apology. It just worked. It was just good. The other prong of the problem, as far as I see it, is that the way outrage sort of spiders out through left spaces, particularly on Twitter, it makes room for people who are actually trying to divide the left. Like Spiked Magazine. Fucking hate Spiked Magazine. I hate them so much. Like, please stay the fuck away from Spiked. They make me fucking angry. Now, I'm not really sure on how to deal with this other than on an individual level. I mean, you know, like I'm a baby leftist. I still have liberal parts of my brain. And, you know, I mean, shit, if you got some thoughts, like, let me know on how we actually deal with this in, like, a more systemic way. It could just be that this sort of thing is going to just be a constant problem so long as Twitter is Twitter, so long as social media functions in the way that it does. And, you know, until such time as we're actively able to change that, we're gonna kind of have to fall back on these sort of individualistic, you know, methods of trying to, you know, correct this. You know, we're gonna have to bring our reusable shopping bags to the store with us, so to speak. Just that might just be the way of it. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm actually interested to hear what people think about this. And while this definitely is a cultural problem, there are individuals who do make it like their goal to just fucking engage in this shit. They are a problem in my mind. I don't think they're much of a problem. They think that they're trying to form a movement, but what they're actually doing is forming a subculture of a subculture. This whole extremely online leftist thing is already a subculture, and so, in which it needs to not be. We need to move past that for sure. But when you try to, you know, create your own little bubble universe, you know, attached to the side of it, that's essentially opposed to it, like, you're just creating a subculture of a subculture. It's not a movement. It's never going to be. But anyway, these individuals that are engaged in cancel culture, this subculture of a subculture, are slowly but surely closing themselves off from the broader left. And that's why I say it's shitty praxis. It's not because, like, creators can't take the heat. They can. They do. All the time. It's because it's just because if you're gonna sit there and you're just gonna shut yourself off and literally create a tiny bubble universe, then, you know, you're going to affect no one. It's the opposite of meeting people where they live, which is totally necessary for a broader left project. You know, and if you're more concerned about correcting the actions of individuals than engaging in a systemic critique, the fuck are you doing? Anyway, if you know who I'm talking about, leave them the fuck alone. Don't at them. Don't seek them out. Don't ask me who I'm talking about. I will not tell you. But I also think that there's merit to the idea that that this sort of discourages people from, you know, moving left, moving into our spaces, because when we try to draw people into the left, we're already asking them to, not only like, upend their entire way of viewing the world. We're asking them to, possibly risk relationships between their family and between, their place of work and whatnot. I mean, their capitalist employers are probably not going to like the fact that they're fucking communists. So not only are we asking them to risk those things, on top of that, we're telling them, like, oh, by the way, don't fucking step out of line even one little bit, or we're gonna just fucking disown you. So that was my first unscripted, on-camera video. I hope this turns out good. I hope everybody likes it. I wanted to do this because I want to put out more content. And doing like the super prepared scripted content, it's I definitely like doing it a lot more, but it's so time consuming, and I want to be able to put out. I'm starting to find that I can only put out like a video a month with the scripted stuff, and I figure that I can crank these out in probably like an afternoon. And so if I squeeze these in here and there, then I can get a few more videos in and give y'all some more content. I know you're clamoring for some more PAX Parallax. So anyway, like if you like this, subscribe if you want to see more. Support me on Patreon if you sold your labor for enough today, and share if you know someone who's already watched like every Peter Coffin video and just really needs to hear more about cancel culture. All right, now I'm gonna go clean the litter box. It's definitely the best part of having cats.